Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for coming out on this blustery Cyber Monday. We're delighted to see you here in person for an important forum, an important conversation. I wanted to acknowledge our special guest in the audience, our first selectman-elect, Wendy Max-Studis. Selectman-elect Amber Abul. Erin Levitt-Smith from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. Thank you for joining us today. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I will do that.
These mics, are they, you know?
Yes, they're on.
Okay.
Lori Fernand with the Attorney General's Office. Thank you for being here. Jason Knight from my office. Thank you, Jason, for all that you do. The folks from SCTV and the Simsbury Public Library for hosting us in this lovely establishment. So, but we wanted to get you all together to talk about multitude of issues affecting our senior citizens. As the Attorney General and I are elected officials over the years, our top priorities have been really protecting our most vulnerable populations, especially our senior citizens. And there's always work to be done. And we accomplished a lot during this last legislative session on behalf of seniors. There's handouts at the back table. If you don't have one, Jason will bring you one to highlight some of the bills that we did pass this year. Noteworthy is an elder abuse and neglect bill and an age discrimination bill to protect our employees in the workplace. We also expanded the Patient's Bill of Rights and increased minimum staffing levels at nursing homes. And we also gave towns more leeway in terms of expanding their tax relief programs. So Simsbury has a tax relief program currently. So for our new selectmen, there's an opportunity to expand that program through legislation we passed this year. But today we really wanted to highlight the new Elder Justice website and hotline, which is housed in the Office of the Attorney General. And we're just so thrilled and honored to have my former colleague in the House, William Tong, with us. He's done an incredible job as Attorney General for 3 years now, is it?
Yeah. Feels like 30 years.
And excited to have Kathy Marschall, our director of the Senior Center. She does a wonderful job. Stephen Hernández, the director of the Commission on Women, Children, and Seniors.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
And last but not least, Deb Bibbins, who's head of a really incredible nonprofit called For All Ages, which helps connect seniors and younger generations to address the issues of loneliness and isolation. And Deb, this is your third year, longer?
Third year, yes.
Doing really incredible work. So we wanted to get this great panel together to have a dialogue, to talk about our areas of expertise, and also give folks in the audience to ask questions. And this is being filmed via Facebook Live. And for folks at home, welcome as well. And I will turn it over to our esteemed Attorney General.
Oh, am I supposed to go next?
Yes.
Well, Representative, I think we had a schedule where we were going to have Kathy go first, and then Deborah and Stephen, and then I'm happy to back clean up. Do you guys want to do it that way?
Sure, that's fine.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds
Okay.
great.
I can go first.
Okay,
Thank
good,
you. Thank
good.
you for that. Hi, everyone. My name's Kathy Marschall. I am the coordinator of the Simsbury Senior Center. We're located just down the street, for those of you who are here from Simsbury, at Eno Memorial Hall. I recognize a lot of faces here, so a lot of our members are out there today, which is nice. We like to think of the Senior Center as a community focal point where older adults can come together for programs that reflect their experience and skills. like everyone else, our world changed back in March 2020. And so what we offered back then and what we offer today are different. But we are resuming programming. We're back in the building. We opened back up June of 21. We are now offering programs in the building, which is great to see. It was nice to welcome folks back. One of our most popular groups of programs and activities are our fitness programs. We're still doing those virtual because there is a mask mandate in our building at this point. But we've been doing Zoom classes since April 2020. We do yoga classes, Tai Chi classes, balance classes, chair classes, line dancing classes. It's hard to believe that we can do all that via Zoom. When we first started, I thought it wasn't possible, but a lot of folks think it's nice. They can get up in the morning, just get out of bed and go and do their class, don't have to drive in cold weather. We also offer back in person in the building. Now we offer a variety of health and wellness screenings. We do a weekly blood pressure, blood sugar screening at the center. We do a monthly hearing screening. We do biannual vision screenings here with the library. We just did one a couple weeks ago here with the Lions Club. We also do foot care at the senior center, which sometimes people think is strange, but I think as we get older, sometimes it gets harder to reach our feet. So they do nail trimmings, they do foot massages, which is very nice at the senior center. We also do flu and pneumonia vaccines on a yearly basis. We also provide a variety of educational information programs. Those are in person again, which is nice. We have a monthly book club. We have a mindfulness group. We've had speakers in recently on downsizing. We're having a program come up on therapy dogs. We just had a program last week on Rosie the Riveter, which was very interesting. And of course, during the enrollment period, we've been doing programs on the Medicare. We also have a lot of opportunities to participate in artistic and creative classes. We have a weekly painting class, a jewelry making class. We just had a class last week on making your own holiday wreath, which was great. We also have a knitting group, and very excited about our knitting groups. We have two groups that provide, one of our groups provides hat and mittens for our social service programs. They started distributing them. And we have another group that knits handmade prosthetics for women that have had mastectomies, which is a great group that meet there twice a month. So we're very excited to have them as part of our center. We also have a lot of recreational and social programs. I don't know if you know, we have a bocce court out back in the seniors. I see some of our bocce players right here in the front row. And they just asked me a couple weeks ago, now that it's getting colder, can we move indoors and play cornhole? So we just ordered cornhole sets for you. And so we're going to start doing that in a couple of weeks. We have a variety of card groups like you would imagine, cribbage. We have a lending library at our center. We also have a choral group. Some of you may have heard them, called the Intonations. They sing at a variety of events. They're singing at our holiday party, which is coming up next week. We're very excited to be able to have an in-person holiday party this year. The other thing I wanted to mention, we do a monthly veterans coffee with the Farmington Valley Health District. So we have speakers come in, and just a time for veterans to get together, to connect, and to talk about different resources that are available to them. We also offer, and we hope to offer again this year, the AARP Tax Assistance Program. We were able to do that last year with the help of the library. We also do the AARP Mature Driver Safety class as well. And we do that in collaboration with the library as well. We're great partners with the library. We do a lot of programs together so we can utilize, our space and their space, which is great. Pre-COVID, we used to offer meals twice a week at the center, but we are still doing our weekly, what we call grab-and-go meals. We have set up a tent outside. People come in and get their meal and take it for the week. And we'll be doing that probably another month or so we hope to get back to in-person dining. We do run a dial-a-ride service. We have buses that can transport people around town. We take people to out-of-town medical appointments, to Hartford, Bloomfield. We do weekly shopping trips out in Avon, Granby, things like that. We just started doing some local travel. We've been to, what's the museum? New Britain Museum, things like that. So we are offering trips again. So that's nice to see. We're always looking for volunteers at the senior center, so if anybody's looking for something to do 3 or 4 hours a week, give me a call and we can set up something there. I did leave our newsletters on the back table, so if you'd like to pick up a newsletter to see what's going on, you can always call me at the center. We're open Monday through Friday. The only other thing I wanted to mention, I don't know if people are aware of our medical loaning closet here in Simsbury that started 2 years ago. It's up at the Apple Barn, so people donate gently used medical equipment, walkers, wheelchairs, stub stands. So if you'd like to donate any of those items or you need to utilize those items, you can call us at the center and we can set you up with the loaning closet. So I think that's everything I have. Thank you for listening, and I'll turn it over to, I think it's Deb. Is it me?
Thanks, Kathy. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Deb Bibbins. I am the founder of For All Ages. We're a local nonprofit that is connecting the generations to end loneliness, reduce ageism, and improve health and well-being. And what I thought I would talk about today is the impact of loneliness and isolation on one's vulnerability to financial scams and physical abuse. It's an issue, it's a situation that is happening, and we don't often talk about that connection. And so I thought I would do that today. So starting with the facts, 1 in 7 older adults have fallen victim to financial exploitation. And the dollar value of that on an annual basis is anywhere from $3 billion to $36 billion. It's a wide range. We don't know the actual number because often it's not reported, because people that are scammed sometimes have some shame and don't want to admit it, and they don't go and talk about it with anyone. And for some people, their only form of social contact is from communication that they may receive, either online or via phone calls from individuals who are really scammers. And sometimes people can form a relationship with a scammer who will continue to call. They become comfortable with that individual, or online, same situation can occur. And they find, an older adult can find some purpose in waiting for that phone call or getting online and connecting with that person. And as the relationship grows, that person becomes more and more vulnerable to being scammed. So for any type of financial exploitation. For an online risk, really the more people are socially isolated, the more vulnerable they are, because they go to the internet looking for that social interaction. And a lot of times scammers are out there. There are pop-ups on websites that are actually scams. And people tend to be more likely to respond to scams online versus on the phone. And they're more likely to lose more money. So if you had to rate them, the amount of scam dollars, if you will, between a phone call and online is much worse. I'll point out that one of the things I'll be talking about is providing some tips on how people can mitigate their risk. One of the things that's a benefit to social connection is that it gives people the ability to reach out to peers and talk to them about, something doesn't seem right, or someone approached me and I don't know, tell me a little bit about this and what do you think? And they can get some information and really just talk through an issue and avoid a scam that way. So what can you do? What can you do to help yourself and any older adult relatives or friends that you may have? It really starts with finding ways to connect socially in a safe manner. So it's a root cause to a large degree of being vulnerable to financial exploitation is that social interaction. It's something we all need. It's something we sometimes don't get enough of. And if I could give you some ideas for both you and your loved ones, it's really to reach out, get involved, volunteer at the senior center a few hours a week, volunteer with any number of local organizations that I'm sure could use your assistance. Go to the senior center, check out some of the programming that's taking place. Come to the library. The library here in Simsbury has virtual and in-person programs and events that are taking place. And also, I would offer that you could participate in any of For All Ages programs or events that we have. They're both online programs and in-person programs and events that we have. And as far as helping your loved ones, I would encourage people to maintain close contact. Go over and visit, stay connected, make phone calls, even texting will help. Keep socially connected with your loved ones and encourage them to get involved and stay involved with something that they would enjoy. And if transportation is an issue, as it so often is, help them with that. Provide some assistance, help set that up for them so that they have the ability to get to where they want to go and stay socially connected. The other thing I would offer is that we should all empower ourselves with information and be wary, for instance, of anyone who's discouraging you from being in contact with your family and friends. Be wary of anyone who exerts pressure on you or your loved ones to provide financial information or to sign a contract. And be on the lookout for a loved one's spending behavior that may change. Something that appears out of character. Perhaps they're not paying their bills and they have the financial ability to do so. Or there's some sudden change in their financial documents. I would also let everyone know that 90% of financial exploitation of older adults takes place by a family member. Okay, so most of it is not, at least for what is reported, most of it occurs by a family member. And so what I would offer is that if anyone feels pressured by a family member, reach out to someone else who might be able to, who they're comfortable with, where you can get some feedback and some thoughts about whether something feels right or doesn't feel right. And always be suspicious of someone close to you who has taken a newfound interest in your life and in your financial assets. It may not be for good reasons. As far as financial exploitation from strangers, I would go back to the basics, right? So we all are aware of this. Be skeptical of unsolicited offers, whether they come on the phone or whether they come online. And just tell people, I don't accept any unsolicited offers. Hang up the phone, close out that website, whatever it is, and just walk away. I would also mention that the Federal Trade Commission has this really cool website. It's called onguardonline.gov, and it's got neat games in there that you can work through, and it helps you become a better online consumer and avoid some of these scams that are out there. So those are my two things that I would offer. Improve social connection, maintain it, and just be on the lookout and be a positive, informed consumer. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you for having us, Representative Hampton. I'm Steve Hernández, and I run the legislature's nonpartisan Commission on Women, Children, and Seniors. And as you may remember, we are the successor to the former Commission on Aging, which was at the legislature. Now, the Commission, just a little bit about the Commission so you know how we are situated in government. We are peculiar in that we don't work for the governor. We staff this legislature. I am staff to Representative Hampton. But also in that we are nonpartisan and we staff both chambers, the House and the Senate. That gives us relative independence. And what that independence does for us is it allows us to work with the public in two main ways. One, to be the conduit for the public to its legislature, but also a home of civics for the public itself. Now, what does that mean? Have you ever thought, if only this could change in this way, if there was only a law, or if only this law were not in the way? We are the shop that you call, because we are the shop that actually helps you develop those ideas and present them to the legislature and to other towns and cities across the state in a way that gives you a voice directly in the House where changes are made in policy. So that is our invitation to you as the seat of policy within the legislature that's also a policy shop. I'm here with Michael Werner, who is our senior and aging policy analyst and advisor. That is a now fully staffed position at the legislature. Michael makes himself available to us and to you for these purposes. Some of the things that we do at the legislature is, say, for instance, one of you says, I'm having a real issue with Medicaid services. I don't understand them. I have assets that I have at my disposal. I don't want to lose those assets. I don't want my family to lose those assets as I age, as I need specialized care going into my later years. What can I do to protect those assets, you might be wondering? Well, what we did at the legislature through your leadership and others is that there was created a task force that we are running and that is being actually co-chaired by my colleague on behalf of Senator Looney, that is exploring how it is that we get you the best advice without bias, that we get you that advice as quickly as possible so that you can manage your assets in the most thoughtful way, and that you have the help not just of attorneys, but the help of all of the agents of government so that we're helping you preserve your legacies as much as possible. That's critically important because, as you know, oftentimes what happens is we find ourselves in a tough spot, and our assets are the first things that are that we lose. So that advice is very important. So that's one of the structures that we do. We also work, and we are partners in the Age Well Collaborative. You know, a long time ago, you may remember this phrase, aging in place, which was sort of the sterile way of thinking about aging. We're all aging, but aging in the state of Connecticut. Age right where you are, and you know, you're less of a burden to us and we're less of a burden to you. Well, now we understand that it's a lot more interesting than that. And aging in place is really about aging well in the communities in which you live. And what that may mean is that in your towns, you have access to one side of the town to the other. You have access to vital services, but also entertainment, also ways of maintaining your dignity, your way of life, the things that you love to do, but also being able to get from one side of Connecticut to the other. That means thinking about transportation options for aging and seniors, but also seeing how it is that generations work together across silo, sometimes co-located, sometimes not, but in a way that we recognize is pro-social and beneficial for all of us. That's a new way of looking at aging well in the state. It might be very different in the city of Hartford. In Hartford, it may just mean that you're able to get from your 12th floor to your 5th floors to the community center on the 5th floor, from your 5th floor down the street. In Simsbury, it might mean that you can get over to Avon if you want to, or New Britain to have an art show or an art exhibition, or get down to the Bushnell if that's what you want. But aging well in Connecticut means more interconnected and multi-service aging in the state, and that's really, I think it's really clever. It talks to us, it speaks to us about how to manage resources more effectively on your behalf, but it also asks one more thing. It says, please speak to us about how we can improve all the services, all of the access that we can as legislators and as policy people for you, all the levers that we can raise or put in place. Finally, we also chair the Senior Center Task Force. So as I was listening to you speak about everything that you do at your senior center here, I think about the senior center that's being built or recently completed in one of our other towns in Connecticut in Rocky Hill. And what's interesting about what they did there is that they very intentionally, and Rocky Hill is a very conservative community in terms of how it invests in its future. And the mayor was able to convince the town to build a senior center that wasn't just for seniors, but it was a senior and community center that was for people of all ages. And I think that's remarkable. And I'll tell you what was remarkable is that the people of the town said, yes, we want to spend this money on this purpose. Now, if it can happen there, you know, there's also what I like to think about as organic community centers in our states. Naugatuck, for instance, I'll tell you what, right in the middle of Naugatuck Valley is the town of Naugatuck. The senior center there said, you know what? We can't manage moving forward just being a senior center. We're going to bring the local troop of the Boy Scouts. We're going to bring in community activities and house them here, right? So that we're actually a hub for community and not just a senior center. And they did that organically. All the way down in Darien, another example. Years ago, almost 25 years ago, Darien decided, you know what, we see the future of what's happening in our town. We want to invite people to move into our town, but also recognize that our town wants to communicate multi-generationally. They took one of these magnificent old homes that's right square in the center of town. It's kind of a castle. And they made a community and a center of that big castle. And now you see multiple generations coming through the building. It's really remarkable. Connecticut is teaching us that. Finally, I wanted to touch on a couple of other things. In the state of Connecticut, there's a long-term care advisory council. We are part of that long-term care advisory council, the commission. We work with the long-term care planning infrastructure of the executive branch. Together, we come up with 3-year plans to best serve the long-term care needs of the people of the state. Our role is that we bring your voice to the policymakers. The policymaker then pronounces and sends their best advice to the executive branch, and they make sure that it all works seamlessly. One final thing, Elder Abuse and Exploitation Training Portal is a portal that we house at the Commission. It's been there since Public Act 15236 for a long time. It's all due for a refreshing. As you can imagine, we had the Commission on Aging, then we have the Commission on Women, Children, and Seniors. As those consolidations have happened, as resources have improved, as resources access has improved in terms of technology, we need to make sure that our sites are up to date. Michael is at the head of refreshing, together with the executive branch, all of those key resources for the benefit of community. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to address those, but I'm just really happy to be here because you really are a really shining example, I think, of what so many of our communities want to do in bringing community together in buildings like this and the buildings right down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you all. With such great leadership locally and all these services, I don't think you need me.
Actually, can I interrupt? You stole my introduction.
What's that? You don't
You
need
stole
me?
No, I wanted to give you a proper introduction to Simsbury, and thank you. We have a trailblazer as our Attorney General. I was privileged to serve with then Representative Tong in the state legislature, and he was a star there, and he is a star now in standing up for us in the Attorney General's office, fighting for rights, for women's rights, children's rights, consumer rights, and really taking the lead on protecting our elderly population. And it's really an honor to have you in that office, and it's an honor to have you. You're always a good friend of Simsbury, a good friend of mine, and a great leader in the state of Connecticut. So thank you and welcome to Simsbury.
Thank you, John.
I don't have the key to the city, but Wendy can give you.
John and I, we still serve together.
Yes.
And, but when we serve together on a day-to-day basis, John's one of my closest friends in the General Assembly. We did a lot of good work together on a lot of issues.
Absolutely.
He continues to work extraordinarily hard for this community. So you're all very lucky to have John Hampton as your state representative.
Oh, thank you very much.
And I say that because Simsbury has a secret mole in my office. Lori Hernández, my principal assistant. So Simsbury always comes first in our office.
There you go.
And Wendy, it's great to see you. Congratulations on becoming the first selectwoman-elect. I am reminded all the time because of the car magnet on Lori's car. I grew up sort of around here. I grew up in West Hartford. I went to the Rembrook School. So even though I live in Stamford now, this is home. And, these are really important issues. So let me pick up on what Steve and Deborah said. When you talk about bringing generations together, you talk about a senior and community center. I think that reflects a more mature understanding that senior issues are not just of concern to senior citizens, that senior issues are everyone's issues, right? Particularly as we as a community get older, and God bless that people are living longer, but that poses a host of challenges that we have to confront as a state. So it impacts housing, it impacts the state budget, it impacts public safety, it impacts municipal buildings, infrastructure, and it's happening to all of us. I was at another event in Avon, and I looked down on my notes, and it took me a second because I'm in denial about reading glasses. I still have not gotten in the habit of putting them in my suit jacket, but I'm there. And as all of us age together, we want to make sure that we do so safely and that all of us are taken care of, and that we have a path to a sustainable, healthy, happy latter half, right, of our lives. And, this touches my office in so many different ways, these issues that affect all of us. And Deborah talked about two ways in which I'm personally engaged. And one is on the consumer protection end, and then the other side is really on the public safety side. So let me talk first about the consumer protection end of things. So as your Attorney General, I am the Chief Legal Officer of the state of Connecticut. So I represent state agencies. I represent Steve when he gets in trouble. That's sort of my day-to-day job. But I also serve all of you in protecting all of us from various threats, fraud, abuse, ways in which we are harmed, discriminated against, abused in all the various pockets of modern life. One of those ways is when we are mistreated as consumers and we are the victims of scams and fraud. We got an up close and personal introduction or reintroduction to scam activity during this pandemic. Remember, as soon as the pandemic hit and we were all trying to figure out what this meant to all of us, you saw a run on hand sanitizer and masks and personal protective equipment. And you would go down to a local convenience store and someone would be selling 2 bottles of hand sanitizer for $50, right? Or a box of N95 masks on Amazon for $500. And that's not okay. It is never okay, and it's illegal to take advantage of your friends, family, neighbors, your community. Even if you as a retailer are struggling too, it is not okay to price gouge and take advantage of other people. And so unfortunately, that happens a lot and more than it should. And scams of all kinds, particularly at this time of year, charity-related scams and holiday-related scams. You can get a phone call or an email and someone will tell you a story that really appeals to you or tugs at your heartstrings, and you'll give money because most of us want to be helpful. And unfortunately, sometimes those are not legitimate or genuine fundraising drives for charities, but they are scams. And then, of course, there are, I call them day-to-day scams. My mom hates it when I bring this up, but Nancy Tong is as tough an immigrant businesswoman as you will ever meet. And my mom and my dad ran a number of businesses, and you would never expect to get anything past my mom. But she, one time, they rent some apartments that they own, and someone ran the overpayment scam on her. So what they did was they sent her a check for the first month's rent and security deposit, but they sent too much money in the check. And so the way the scam works is the scammer said to my mom, "Oh, I didn't mean to send you too much money. So take the check that I sent you, bring that to your bank and you can cash it and just send me back the difference. But I need that money, to feed my kids or whatever the story was. So can you wire that money?" And my mom, God bless my mom, she fell for it. And she was out several $1,000s, which is a reminder. And again, my mom is as tough as they come. If you want to bargain for something or negotiate, bring my mom, right? But all of us are vulnerable, depending on the day, right? How it hits us. I'm vulnerable, right? I always have to think twice about clicking what are known as the phishing scams. When someone sends you an email and says, "Oh, your bank account, requires you to update some information. Please click here." It comes to my official email account, my state attorney general email account. So nobody is spared. And I think Deborah gave some really good advice, which is always be skeptical. If you get a phone call, if someone calls you on the phone to ask you for money, if you get a robocall that sounds like it's from EverSource, don't respond. Just thank you, hang up the phone. And if you want to give to the American Lung Association, or you're concerned that maybe you're late on your EverSource bill, you make your own inbound phone call, an inquiry, and then you could do whatever you want if you initiate. And on top of the day-to-day scam activity, as you know, scam, consumer fraud, abuse happens even at a much larger and national level. And so a lot of my day is focused, for example, on taking on the addiction industry in fighting the opioid and addiction crisis. I am leading the 50-state lawsuit against the generic drug manufacturers in this country for price fixing. You may have heard that's Connecticut's case, and what we've discovered is that the generic drug industry is the largest corporate cartel in history, and they are artificially fixing prices on 90% of our prescriptions. 90% of the prescriptions written in this country are generic, right? Look in your medicine cabinet, mostly generic. Those prices for a long time were the subject of unlawful price fixing and collusion among the manufacturers. I do a lot in pushing back against our state's utilities. They're important, they're vital. They don't always do a good job. And so I spend a lot of time fighting with Eversource and United Illuminating, and just extracted a $100 million plus penalty out of Eversource for their failures in Tropical Storm Isaias. And that fight continues. Let me turn quickly to physical abuse. And you gave some statistics about financial abuse. The physical abuse statistics for seniors are equally sobering. Most of the physical abuse that seniors experience comes also from family members. Most of it goes unreported. And so in the Department of Social Services, there is a protective services unit that protects seniors in this state. But unfortunately, I think I have a statistic that only 1 in 23 cases gets reported. And the number you cited, that the cost of financial abuse is as high as $36 billion a year. That's an astronomical toll on our economy. And 1 in 6, 1 in 10 older adults are subject to physical abuse. So what are we doing about it? So on the consumer protection side, if you feel like you've been the victim of a scam, you're not sure that maybe someone's trying to rip you off or take advantage of you, you should call the Elder Justice Hotline. Let me give you that number. It's 1-860-808-5555. So irrespective of whether you're a senior citizen or not, if you feel like you've been mistreated as a consumer or you might be the subject of some kind of scam, call that number and we'd be happy to help and do as much as we can. In terms of physical abuse and elder abuse, we work in concert with a number of state agencies, including Department of Social Service, Elderly Protective Services Unit. You can call that same number if you or someone you love or someone in your community you suspect is a victim of elder abuse. Call the number I just gave you, or you can call the Department of Social Services directly at 1-888-385-4225. I'll give that to you again, 1-888-385-4225. The final thing I'll say is, like all things, we can't take action unless we know about it. And it is really important that, when you talk, for example, about related issues like domestic violence or even hate or bias related incidents, people are often afraid to report because it involves an intimate partner or family member, or they fear retaliation, and so people are reluctant to come forward, and the abuse persists and it gets worse, and people can get hurt, people can get killed, and people can lose a lot of money. It's really important that you report. And it's really important that you not only keep this number for yourself, God forbid you have an issue, but that you broadcast this number to other people and let them know that this is a safe place. The Attorney General's office is a safe place to call. We will take your information on a confidential basis, and we'll try to figure out a way to safely help you. And I think that's the most important reason why we're here today, is just to encourage all of you to take advantage of all of these resources. With that, Representative, I turn it back to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Did you want to touch on the coalition for elder justice?
Sure.
That'd be great.
There's actually a huge coalition that the Department on Aging in 2013 put together. And so a lot of you will touch one of these agencies or organizations. And I'm not going to read them all, but it includes AARP, the Better Business Bureau, the Connecticut Bar Association. People sometimes don't know where to go if they have a legal issue, right? And it's not, well, who can afford a lawyer these days? It's super expensive. And sometimes you just need a sounding board to point you in the right direction. The Commission, the Department of Mental Health and Addiction, right? The Department of Social Services, all of these various agencies, there are many more, and they work with outside nonprofits like For All Ages. And so there are many, many different points of entry. So even if you lose my number or forget to call me, if you reach out to any one of these agencies or points of entry, we can get to the same place.
And of course, always feel free to call me or email me and reach out if you have any issues relative to abuse and fraud and scams. Thank you, Mr. Attorney
Sure.
General. We're wonderful. I'd like to open it up to questions from folks for our august panel.
I just want to make a couple comments, if that's okay. I just want to compliment Kathy on the work that the senior center does. The services that you guys provide is just amazing. I had on my list to ask you about the trips, and that you touched on that you guys are starting to have those back on, and that's great. One of the things I heard from campaigning and door knocking from people is transportation issues. That as something to continue to look into. I know we have Dial-A-Ride. I believe that's shared among other towns, but I know there's some towns that have their own services and things like that. We have American Rescue Plan money that's coming into the town, a lot of money. There's a lot of rules around how we use that money, but we're trying to explore the best uses and where we can use them to help, our residents more. So in January, there's a final ruling coming out on the uses, and I'm going to the convention tomorrow at CCM, where they're going to focus on that with the other towns, and we might get some leeway on other uses of how we can use this money to help that. I also want to comment on the senior/community center. We know that that's been on the books for many years, and there's a lot of people, Mark, that have seen it come and go. I saw it last year, out 6 years in our plan, our capital improvement plan, and then it was taken off of the capital improvement plan, which is kind of a wish list, but it's supposed to be what we can afford, but it was taken off. There's a lot of onus to kind of make sure that I don't want a mic. I'm not loud enough, right? I'm loud. Sorry. There's a lot of push to make sure that doesn't get lost, and that's something that I'm interested in. I know Amber is also focused on that, and hope our current board also is. Of course, it comes down to cost, right? And where. We just had a tour of. Am I talking too long?
No.
We just had a tour of Eno, and we know that there's ADA compliant issues there, and we're not sure that that's the best place for the future senior center, but there may be other places. So it is in the conversation. I just want people to know that it is in the conversation. It's not just a senior center, as Deb pointed out, but really a community center and a focus where everyone can go and teens can go, because we know teens were hurt during COVID. So those are conversations that we're going to have as we meet as a board coming through, and we're starting our budget process tomorrow night, Wednesday night. So those are going to be tough discussions that we have. So that's just something I wanted to share with everybody here.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to compliment you all and thank you for your overviews. And we're speaking very generally to a great many of the issues. We all need to be refreshed and reminded. I think you've got a pretty savvy audience here, but you're going to hear more. But there are other issues, and perhaps we've sort of flagged them as you've gone along, and I might be focused to you, sir. Tong. One of the, we just start with the phrase, if you are feeling at risk, we said reach out to someone. Well, when we use a generic like someone, that is not a useful direction, because our largest problem as a generation is that we are not accustomed to asking for help. And we do not have the focus and resource lists of specific resource. Hopefully we're going to have more of that with numbers that you've just provided, but I really need to highlight that very, very strongly. Obviously, I get to categorize myself as part of the senior generation, but the other people are not. The other thing that, or one of the two other things that go along with this, is the very strong concern about public safety. In view of the current, much more aggressive criminal activity levels, the seniors generally feel more vulnerable. We are a clear, vulnerable target and are so on many different levels. And part of the problem currently appears to stem from the fact that even though events can occur, people can be arrested. With the COVID climate, it appears as though, and we know the courts are on overwhelm for multiple reasons. And even though the state may, for instance, mandate a penalty for a particular level of arrest, not a misdemeanor, a felony.
Yep.
Those felonies are not, in fact, being given the level of penalty to the perpetrators because they are not direct risk to person. In other words, nobody got shot, nobody's lying bleeding on the floor. However, if you are a senior and it is your house that was broken and entered, that breaking and entering felony means as much to you as if somebody came up and put a gun to your head. That is as much of a violation as rape or of any of the others. These, we need to feel safe. We need to feel as though the judicial system is going to, in fact, make the wise decisions to protect us. And is it a total catch-22? No, we don't have an instant solution to COVID. It hasn't gone away. It hasn't loosened everything up. We haven't been able to say, oh, it's all better. We're going to go back the way it used to is. And if so-and-so breaks into my house, they're going to go to jail. We don't have that. And none of us know. You guys don't have crystal balls. I am speaking to a whole level of fear and awareness that isn't addressed by being savvy, being smart.
Yep.
And I wanted just to raise that flag. I believe you can see a lot of people nodding their heads. I'm not familiar with all these faces, but I guarantee you this is an unspoken but hugely discussed issue amongst our community. And one would hope that when we speak about programs, they have to have consequences.
Yeah.
In order for that safety level to rise to the point. So
this is an extraordinarily important issue. It's hard to think of an issue more important than this. Public safety. Relatedly, it's not just seniors, of course. As you know, unfortunately, there was a rash of hate and bias-related incidents targeting Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders across the country. And we got to do something about it. And here in Connecticut, I know the legislature, I know the governor, everyone's focused on it. I am the chief civil law enforcement officer of the state of Connecticut. I don't have criminal jurisdiction. For those of you who know how state government works, that criminal authority is in our police, state police, and the state's attorneys. But to the extent that I can weigh in and on the civil side provide support and help, we're trying to do that. No easy answers, okay? No easy answers because Connecticut, for a number of years now, over the last decade, has seen dramatic drops in violent crime and in crime broadly, and is still one of the safest states in the country. That doesn't mean that we haven't seen an increase and that we haven't seen a surge. There's been some discussion about statistics and what they show. You know, I don't know that that's productive. I think at the end of the day, it's important to acknowledge that people don't feel safe and that we have an issue that we need to confront. I don't have an easy answer. I do know that the legislature and the governor are working on it. I'm working on it to the extent that I have a role, and we have to make sure that people are safer here in Connecticut, and we will do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
AG Tong, I'd like to thank you for being here
Sure.
today. I think I'll take that down so you can hear for just a moment. My name is Mary Hendrickson, Simsbury resident, and I'm engaged in a group called the Farmington Valley Retired Teachers. So I would like to raise an issue today relating to another senior population here in Connecticut, and that's its retired teachers. Connecticut teachers pay for their health insurance, unlike state workers. And during the last 3 years, the Teachers Retirement Board has been slowly moving all retired teachers into a Medicare Advantage plan. Sorry. This has been done by dramatically increasing the monthly premium that we pay for our traditional Medicare. Here are the numbers that are proposed for next year for retired teachers. If you want the Advantage plan, it will cost you $80 a month. If you want traditional Medicare with a supplement, it will cost you $319 a month. Retired teachers want to retain their original Medicare with a supplement, and they have to pay 4 times the amount, $319 versus $80, for the basic same health insurance. Why is there a huge disparity in pricing for retired teachers for basically the same product? I know you as Attorney General represent the Teachers Retirement Board. That is your job. But who is there to protect and be an advocate for the retired teachers of this state?
Yeah.
I guess the final thing I would say is that we have attempted to contact our concerns to the TRB, but we've been given inadequate responses. So the Association for Retired Teachers of Connecticut have sent written letters describing this disparity to your office, to the insurance commissioner, and to the OPM, and we've had no response. So who has oversight over the Teachers Retirement Board, and who can renegotiate this contract?
So thank you for that also extraordinarily important question. I just was in Avon and met with some of your colleagues, I think, who are part of your coalition. And they gave me a real education on this issue. It's incredibly complicated. Medicare Advantage plans and supplement plans and the donut hole and prescription drugs, and it'll make your head spin. I'm sure, I'm sure you get it at the senior center. And I'll be honest, despite being your attorney general, it's hard for me to follow all of it because it's so technical and Byzantine. And what's so wrong about it is that teachers over your careers gave so much to the people and children and adults of this state, including me and you and others, and you don't get Social Security, right? That's something that people don't understand, that teachers in this state do not receive Social Security. And if your spouse who's not a teacher passes away, you don't get their Social Security. And so I guess teachers get it coming and going in many respects, and that is wrong and grossly unfair. I don't know why you're not getting responses from the TRB. And if you didn't get a response from me, that's not okay. Let me assure you, Lori, who's in the back there, we spoke with your colleagues in your coalition in Avon. We're going to have a meeting and a call so I can understand more what can be done about this issue. The Department of Insurance and the TRB are my clients. They don't work for me, and they don't report to me. But we will do whatever we can to get more information and confront this problem. The final thing I will say is, for those of you who follow my work, I'm not shy about going to court and filing a lawsuit. But I don't go to court unless I have a good case and I know we can win. And because if you lose a case against like big health insurers, that'll set you back, a generation. So we need to get as much information as we can about what's happening. We need to put as much pressure as we can on them. And if there's daylight and there's a legal action that is likely to be successful that I can bring, we will consider that. The truth about healthcare, as all of you know, is nothing has gotten more expensive quicker than healthcare in this country. I was saying to my father-in-law, who's 75 this year, that when I was in college, I remember wanting to buy a Honda Civic, and it was about 15 grand in when I was in college. It's still like 16, 17 grand for a Honda Civic. The cost of a car, actually, a basic car, hasn't gone up as much as the cost of healthcare, okay, which has gone up exponentially. If I had an easy answer, if we had an answer to all of that, we would have done it already. And of course we don't, but we're focused on it. The final thing I'll say is health insurers, like cable companies and big tech companies, they cover their tracks in Washington. Okay, so antitrust powers, for example, that I might have against the generic drug industry, the powers that I have against the opioid and addiction industry, in healthcare and in certain other industries, they've done a good job of covering their backside. So there are limited points of entry for a state attorney general in the healthcare space. That doesn't mean we're not going to try. So let us learn more about what's happening, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to add something to what Mary brought up. The price discrepancy between the Medicare, traditional Medicare plan and the PPO plan. If a husband and wife are married and are both teachers, that's quite a hefty bill. Quite a hefty bill for those who are retired. And this is something, and I've worked with Mary and Jackie and I don't know who else in the room. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Trying to get people in power to listen to our needs. Insurance is critical, especially those who want the Medicare plan, who have health issues, and they want to get the best coverage that they possibly can.
It's frustrating for all of us.
Thank you, Dan. Other questions?
I have another question.
Yes.
The age change on the
I'm overruling your weapon.
Oh, come on. The age change, see, it's just the same volume on the taxes from 70 to 65. Right, that's a recent change. Is there any restrictions on income? Is it tied to income or anything like that, or is it just age-based?
What we did was change the age, but there's also income requirements, and then the town can take the state program and
modify
tweak
it? Okay, that was a
Yeah.
question. Thanks.
And it hasn't been tweaked in a while, so it might be a good time
Thank you.
to look at it. Other questions? Are there questions via Facebook? I'm not sure if we're, okay,
No?
great.
Well, listen, I don't know if any of you have anything to add, but let me just say, first of all, we've given you some phone numbers. There are some resources here on any of these issues, whether it's financial fraud and abuse, consumer protection, if you feel like you've been mistreated by a retailer or by a business, or worse, if you're being physically abused or you know somebody who is, call us. And call me, sorry, I'm going to be more specific. Call me at the number that I've given. With respect to health insurance, bigger issues, we will definitely make time for a meeting. I need to get more educated about this issue. I don't live and breathe it every day like you do, which is why I need to get more educated. And we will do everything that we can. And if we don't have the authority to do that, we will talk to our friends in legislature to see if we can get that authority. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Just want to thank our excellent panel of folks who I'm sure will stick around after and give you their business cards to reach out to them. And you can always reach out to me, of course, and stay in touch. And at regular office hours, or if you just want to meet individually, please let me know. But please be assured of our advocacy and support for you and for your families. And I hope you have healthy and happy holiday season. And again, thank you. Let's give a round of applause to our special guest.
Thank you.